Everyone says California is gorgeous and brutally expensive. The truth? Scattered across the state are towns where your paycheck stretches and the scenery still slaps. Stay with us. These spots might completely change how you think about living in California. Number 10. Clear Lake. Picture this, a shimmering blue lake stretching for miles, framed by golden hills, with a dormant volcano rising in the background. That's Clear Lake, a laid-back town perched on the southeastern shore of Clear Lake, California's largest natural freshwater lake, a vast 68-square-mile basin born of volcanic fire. Mount Constitute still keeps watch above it all, its ridgeline trails offering panoramas that look painted onto the horizon. With around 16,600 residents, life in Clear Lake ebbs and flows with the water itself. Clear Lake State Park pulls swimmers and campers into oak-shaded coves, while Anderson Marsh tells stories of tool marshes and indigenous history along quiet boardwalks. Climb toward Constitute's summit, and the reward is a view that freezes you mid-stride, stretching across the basin that anglers proudly call the bass capital of the West. In fact, Clear Lake was crowned America's #1 bass lake in 2025, and tales of legendary catches ripple like folklore across town. Seasons here have their own rhythm. Spring means laughter and boats on the water during the Clear Lake Oaks Glenhaven Catfish Derby, a tournament that reels in entire families. By fall, orchards and parades spill into the streets at the Kelseyville Pear Festival, the valley celebrating its roots with music and farm-to-fork flavor. In between, Lake County's volcanic soil wineries pour bold reds and crisp whites, best enjoyed with lake breezes and a horizon that always seems to glow. Now for the practical side, lakefront living that doesn't empty your pockets. Homes here usually range between $200,000 to $250,000, with rentals hovering near $1,000 a month, prices that feel almost mythical for California, especially with a view of the water included. Yes, summers run hot and dry, and sometimes algal blooms tint the lake's edges. But locals keep an eye on advisories, and life goes on. Because in Clear Lake, the rewards are longer than the drawbacks. Endless boating seasons, sunsets that set the hills aflame, and trails that stitch together volcanic history with small-town spirit. And if lake life isn't your style, just wait. The next stop takes us from cool waters to desert sands, where the Colorado River slices through golden terrain. Number 9. Blythe. Golden desert sand rolling into a ribbon of green. That's the first surprise of Blythe. Tucked along the Colorado River in the Sonoran Desert, this city of about 17,300 manages to look both sun-baked and lush at once, with more than 350 days of sunshine a year. The outdoors shapes daily life here. At Mayflower Park, families launch kayaks, set up fishing poles, or pitch tents beneath cottonwoods that cut the desert heat. ATVs rattle along the dusty trails just outside of town, and when night falls, the sand turns into a planetarium floor, stars scattered clear across the horizon. Travel north, and the desert itself holds secrets. The Blythe Intlios, massive human and animal figures etched into the ground centuries ago, so enormous they're best admired from the sky. Few corners of California blend recreation with ancient mystery quite like this. However, Blythe hums with its own seasonal rhythm. February brings fiddles and banjos to the riverbank during the Blythe Bluegrass Festival, one of the state's longest-running music events. March shifts the tone with the Colorado River Fair, filling the valley with rodeo shows, carnival rides, and neon-lit food stalls. And when the urge to wander strikes, Joshua Tree National Park is only a drive west, while across the Arizona line, the Kofa Wildlife Refuge stretches wild and rugged under endless skies. For all that sunshine and activity, Blythe keeps the cost of living refreshingly grounded. Homes usually list between $200,000 and $240,000, with rentals averaging around $900 a month. Rare numbers for a California town sitting on the water. But as the desert sands fade into rolling valleys, the story shifts, and the next stop brings us to a place where oil fields, petroglyphs, and even racing horned toads define small-town life. Number 8. Coalinga. Where else can you cheer on racing horned toads one week and watch the sky bloom with hot air balloons the next? That's Coalinga, a Pleasant Valley town of roughly 16,700, where unusual traditions are a part of everyday life. The setting itself adds to the character. Coalinga lies against the soft curves of the Jihara Hills and the Anticline Ridge, a landscape carved by the same geology that made it an oil hub more than a century ago. Trails weave across oak-dotted ridges, trading city noise for wide pastoral views. Tucked among the hills is the Birdwell Rock petroglyph site, sandstone boulders etched with Native American carvings, silent messages from centuries past that still watch over the valley. The past clings tightly here. What began as a coaling station for Southern Pacific Railroad engines turned into a boomtown when oil was struck in the late 19th century. Chevron and Era still pump from the fields, but Coalinga also celebrates its story at the R.C. Baker Memorial Museum, where fossils, pioneer relics, and native artifacts fill the halls of a restored 1930s gas station. Out front, the salvaged bell tower from the old Polk Street School, toppled by the 1983 earthquake, stands like a monument to endurance. Endurance, of course, comes with a dash of humor. Late each May, the Horned Toad Derby takes over, drawing crowds to cheer spiky reptiles dashing for glory, a spectacle that's as hilarious as it is beloved. Come November, dawn skies belong to the Wamobass Hot Air Balloon Rally, when dozens of balloons lift off from the fields near West Hills College, turning sunrise into a floating patchwork quilt. Despite all its color, Coalinga keeps life affordable. Homes typically range from $250,000 to $290,000, with rents around $1,000 per month, numbers that stand out in California. And just down the road, a much bigger city waits, one that traded farmland for neon, country music, and a baseball park built the wrong way. Number 7. Bakersfield. Bakersfield doesn't tiptoe around its identity. It wears neon signs, country music legends, and a backwards baseball stadium like badges of honor. In this Central Valley hub of about 417,000 people, quirks aren't hidden. They're part of what makes this city memorable. Far from being a sleepy farm town, Bakersfield is the 9th largest city in California, planted between oil fields, citrus groves, and a soundtrack that helped shape American music. The Bakersfield sound, made famous by Buck Owens and Merle Haggard, still hums in the city's veins, even as new filmmakers and artists add fresh layers of creativity. The Fox Theater, with its glowing marquee, keeps the cultural lights on, while the Kern County Museum's Pioneer Village and Neon Plaza bridge nostalgia with the present. Nature balances the city's energy. 2 hours on the road can put you beneath the giant sequoias of Sequoia National Park, hiking the Sierra foothills, or wandering alpine trails. Closer to home, Murray Family Farms offers cherry picking, corn mazes, and offbeat fruit hybrids like the cherrim, proof that agriculture here still surprises. But what makes Bakersfield calendar so full of surprises? Each fall, the Kern County Fair lights up the city with rodeos, concerts, and carnival rides. Looking for a street party? Village Fest turns downtown into an open-air celebration of music, food, and craft beer. And then there's Bake Anime, where cosplay and gaming share space with the city's country roots, reminding everyone that Bakersfield can turn from twang to pop culture flair without skipping a beat. Despite all this bustle, Bakersfield remains one of California's bargains. Homes typically list between $350,000 and $400,000, with median rents around $1,000, a rare combination of affordability and urban amenities. Daily living costs run close to the national average, with groceries running $350 to $400 a month, making it one of the few large cities in the state where a paycheck stretches without strain. So here's the question. After neon signs, quirky ballparks, and cherry farms, What could possibly outshine Bakersfield's charm? The answer lies north, in a foggy coastal town of Victorian mansions, redwood skylines, and even a one-stool ferry bar. Number 6. Eureka. What other town can boast a mansion that looks like it wandered out of a fairy tale? A ferry with California's tiniest bar, and fog that rolls in like a movie set. That's Eureka, a coastal city where history and whimsy meet on the edge of Humboldt Bay. Home to about 25,400 people, Eureka sits with the Pacific Ocean on one side and forest of towering redwoods on the other. Its 350-acre Old Town district is a time capsule of Victorian, Greek Revival, and neoclassical architecture. The jewel in the crown is the Carson Mansion, an ornate gingerbread giant and one of the most photographed Victorian homes in America. Just blocks away, colorful murals splash across brick walls, while the Clark Historical Museum, housed in a former 1911 bank, tells stories of regional history and native heritage. Nature isn't just nearby, it's woven right into the city. At Sequoia Park, visitors wander among century-old redwoods on the Redwood Skywalk, a canopy bridge that suspends you in the treetops. The Humboldt Botanical Gardens, just south of town, spread over 44 acres of trails, native plants, and bay views where the fog drapes itself like a curtain. On the waterfront, kayakers glide across Humboldt Bay while gulls circle overhead. And the Madaket Ferry, a floating relic of 1910, still carries passengers and pours drinks from its famous one-stool bamboo bar. Affordability sweetens the deal. Median home prices sit between $350,000 and $420,000, with average rent near $1,200 a month. That's higher than the national average, but still a rare bargain for coastal California. And in the city's cultural depth and outdoor access, Eureka becomes a place where ornate history and rugged nature coexist on the same block. Before we roll on to the next town, don't forget to hit that like button and tell us in the comments, which California gem on this list would you pack your bags for? Number 5. Alturas. At over 4,300 feet above sea level, Alturas is the kind of place where cool nights settle fast, stars spill across the sky, and the county fair might just share a street with the U.S. Forest Service office. Home to only about 2,600 people, Alturas is the sort of high desert town that feels bigger than its numbers suggest. Its very name means heights in Spanish, and the landscape lives up to it. The Warner Mountains rise to the east, the Modoc Plateau stretches rugged and wide, and the Pitt River cuts calmly through town. From grazing lands to field mosaics to snow-dusted ridges, Alturas looks like it was painted for people who appreciate open horizons. The heritage runs deep here. Long before it became a trading hub in the early 1900s, this was Kasalektawi, an Achumawi village along the Pitt River. That history lingers in the land, echoed in the trails, riverbanks, and stories that give the place its grounding. Today, federal and state agencies like the Modoc National Forest and Bureau of Land Management anchor the economy, alongside ranching and agriculture that have shaped the valley for generations. Alturas may be remote, but it has its own rhythm. The Brass Rail Basque restaurant serves hearty plates in a family-style setting that's as much community gathering spot as dinner table. Scenic drives loop into the Warner Mountains, and the town works as a natural gateway to the wilderness beyond, plateaus, wetlands, and lonely desert roads that vanish toward Nevada. Even Fort Bidwell and Cedarville, tucked further into the county, feel like extensions of Alturas' quiet orbit. Think you can't find a home in California for under $200,000? Alturas begs to differ. Houses here run between $150,000 to $170,000, with rents around $800 a month. Prices almost impossible to spot anywhere else in the state. It may be modest, but Alturas carries its weight with quiet strength. A small population holding down county businesses, nights that surprise with sudden desert chill, and a backdrop that constantly whispers, "You've reached the edge of California's forgotten heights." Yet just beyond, the scenery shifts, to a place where pine forest and sagebrush share the same ground, and history and wilderness meet in surprising ways. Number 4. Susanville. Susanville is the kind of place where ponderosa pines and sagebrush shake hands. Tucked in northeastern California, it straddles 3 worlds at once: the Sierra Nevada, the Cascade Range, and the Great Basin Desert, which gives this town a backdrop as varied as the story it tells. About 16,000 people call Susanville home today, but its roots run back to the Gold Rush era, when it started as a rugged outpost before shifting into ranching and timber. That frontier spirit still lingers in the Uptown district, where old brick storefronts and hand-painted murals pay tribute to pioneers and local legends. Outdoors, Susanville doesn't play small. The Biz Johnson National Recreation Trail, built along a retired railroad grade, runs for 25 miles through tunnels, over trestle bridges, and past fall foliage that glows like fire every October. A quick drive opens the door to Lassen Volcanic National Park, a surreal playground of steaming fumaroles, alpine lakes, and rugged volcanic peaks. Closer to town, Eagle Lake offers kayaking and fishing, while the Susan River winds quietly for camping and day hikes. For all its natural drama, the cost of living stays refreshingly grounded. Median home prices hover around $230,000 to $270,000, with rents just under $1,000 a month, numbers that make the idea of mountain views from your porch feel surprisingly within reach. Number 3. Burney. When Teddy Roosevelt called Burney Falls the 8th wonder of the world, he wasn't exaggerating. The 129-foot cascade, pouring 100 million gallons of water a day through mossy cliffs and evergreens, is the kind of sight that makes a tiny town like Burney feel larger than life. This high desert community of around 3,000 people sits at 3,195 feet, tucked at the base of the Cascade Range and in the shadow of Burney Mountain, a 7,854-foot lava dome. Forest ridges wrap around the valley, streams thread through pine groves, and the air carries a crispness that makes every night sky blaze with stars. Remote? Yes, but that distance is part of Burney's magic. At the heart of it all is MacArthur Burney Falls Memorial State Park, where visitors chase waterfalls, camp under towering trees, and hike 6 miles of shaded trails. Horseback riders trot along forest paths, kayaks skim across Lake Britain, and anglers test their luck in trout-filled creeks. Even long-distance hikers find their way here. The Pacific Crest Trail brushes close, bringing travelers from as far away as Mexico and Canada. Water shapes Burney's story in more ways than one. Burney Creek is a trout haven, while an hour's drive brings you to the McLeod River Falls, a 3-tiered cascade with natural swimming holes that locals treasure in the summer. Even the art feels tied to the outdoors, with roadside sculptures made from scrap metal and junk turning up like whimsical surprises along country roads. Where else can you find world-class waterfalls paired with small-town price tags? In Burney, homes average from $170,000 to $230,000, with rents around $700 a month. Numbers that feel like they're from another era in California. Number 2. Needles. They say you haven't felt real heat until you've stepped out of a car in Needles in July, the kind that fries eggs on the sidewalk and makes thermometers shiver. This desert town leans into its extremes, carving a place in history along Route 66 with neon motels, railroads, and sunsets that paint the Mojave sky in fiery color. With about 4,800 residents, Needles sits at California's edge, nearly touching Arizona and Nevada. The Colorado River cools the heat with boating, fishing, and lazy afternoons on sandy banks, while just beyond the town, the Mojave Desert stretches wide with volcanic mesas and spring wildflowers. For a quieter escape, the nearby Mojave National Preserve feels like another world, and on the outskirts, the mysterious Topak Maze, a century-old Earth pattern, still refuses to give up its secrets. Needles' past is written in neon. The 1908 El Garces Station, once a Harvey House hotel, still stands in neoclassical glory, now doubling as an Amtrak hub. Ghostly remains of Carty's Camp, immortalized in The Grapes of Wrath, linger on the edge of town. Signs from the old 66 motel still glow, keeping the Mother Road alive in memory. For travelers chasing Route 66, Needles is less a pit stop than a living museum of road trip Americana. The town's spirit runs just as hot as the climate. County rodeos and fall fairs bring neighbors together, while the annual Route 66 Fest turns the streets into a showcase of music, food, and chrome-polished classic cars. Across the river in Lake Havasu, London Bridge Days adds an eccentric splash of parades and pageantry, proving this desert corner can party in its own way. Despite the legends, life here comes cheap. Median home values land between $170,000 and $200,000, with rent averaging $750 a month. Numbers that feel almost unreal for a place wrapped in so much history. Number 1. Reading. Only in Reading can you walk across a giant clock that also happens to be a bridge. The Sundial Bridge, a 700-foot-long glass and steel span designed by Santiago Calatrava, doubles as both a glowing river crossing and one of the world's largest working sundials. By day, it casts a perfect shadow. By night, it lights up aquamarine like a piece of modern art. With about 93,500 residents, Reading holds the title of Shasta County's seat and anchors the Sacramento River in Northern California. It's the kind of city where downtown murals meet rolling hills, and where one afternoon can take you from coffee shops and art galleries to alpine trails or volcanic craters. Turtle Bay Exploration Park stretches across 300 acres at the riverfront, weaving together an arboretum, a museum, and hands-on wildlife programs. The nature beyond the city is even bigger. Whiskeytown National Recreation Area glitters with waterfalls and hidden coves. Lassen Volcanic National Park bubbles with hydrothermal wonders. Castle Crags juts skyward with granite spires, and Shasta Trinity National Forest sprawls with alpine lakes and endless hiking. For a different adventure, the Shasta Caverns plunge underground, and Shasta Dam towers above the river with sweeping views of the valley. Reading just doesn't lean on scenery. It has quirks of its own. The Reading Drag Strip, built in 1953, is the oldest continuously operating NHRA-sanctioned drag strip in the country, still alive with the smell of fuel and cheering crowds. Downtown is colorful and walkable, dotted with local shops and coffee houses. Evenings often hum with live music, community festivals, and outdoor movie nights under the warm valley sky. For all its access to nature and culture, Reading stays affordable by California standards. Typical homes range from $360,000 to $400,000, while median rents hover around $1,300 a month. Living costs stay in check, especially compared with the Bay Area or coastal hubs, making Reading a city where urban conveniences meet mountain town prices. We hope you enjoyed this video. Here's another one you'll love. Thanks for watching.